Look around you. Just picture the spaces you inhabit every single day. Your workplace, your classroom, maybe a crowded bar on a Friday night, or even just sitting around with your closest inner circle of friends. We all cling to this really polite, comforting illusion that modern society is entirely rational, right? We tell ourselves that we're evolved, we're equal, and we're totally logical. But if you watch closely, if you actually look at the lingering eye contact, the sudden silences, the subtle shifts in posture when a certain person walks into the room, you start to notice a deeply primitive architecture hidden right beneath every single interaction. We are just not as evolved as we like to think, because the truth is, every human group, no matter how sophisticated, inevitably builds a hierarchy.
Someone leads. In literally every room you enter before a single word is even spoken, natural power structures begin to lock into place. Just watch a group of strangers meeting for the first time. Watch how people naturally, almost magnetically gravitate towards certain individuals. Notice how the collective attention instantly focuses in specific directions. It's like invisible lines of influence are being drawn in the air, completely dictating the dynamic of the room. It's this quiet, psychological sorting mechanism happening right in front of our eyes, sorting the room into a distinct order based entirely on unspoken signals.
And someone follows. We live in a culture that desperately pretends equality is the absolute norm, that everyone holds the exact same weight in every conversation. Yet the really uncomfortable truth is that we unconsciously obey these invisible social rules every single day. We defer. We step back to let someone else pass. We wait for microscopic social cues from others before we even dare to speak up in a meeting. We literally laugh at jokes we don't even find funny just because the person telling them holds a slightly higher position in the room. And this submission isn't forced. It's entirely voluntary. It's driven by a really deep-seated psychological need to just fit into the established order.
And, inevitably, someone gets ignored. Human beings are constantly, subconsciously measuring status. Even when you are completely relaxed, totally unaware of it, your brain is quietly calculating who holds the power, who has the influence, and precisely where you stand in their shadow. It's a primitive instinct. It's a survival mechanism that's always running in the background of your mind. We scan the room, we pick up on micro-expressions, clothing, tone of voice, body language, and we instantly rank ourselves against the people around us. Are we above them? Are we below them? It's a continuous, exhausting, and completely subconscious psychological audit.
So why exactly do we do this? Well, to understand it, we have to look backward. Our modern brains are still carrying thousands of years of primitive programming. Back in ancient times, status wasn't just a matter of feeding your ego, it literally dictated your survival. Higher status meant the physical protection of the tribe. It meant the absolute best access to food, shelter, and resources. Historically, as societies grew, that raw survival instinct evolved into a drive for influence, opportunity, and wealth. Now today, we aren't fighting for basic survival in the wild, but our brains don't actually know that. We're still using those exact same primitive instincts to measure power in an office meeting or at a dinner party. We are essentially running modern social software on ancient neurological hardware, treating minor social slights as if they were literal threats to our existence.
And because of this, most social hierarchies are entirely invisible. Nobody officially announces them, but everyone feels the crushing weight of them. You see this subconscious status detection in the micro-observations of everyday life. Just think about it. Who constantly interrupts without any consequence? Who do people stop what they're doing to listen to carefully? Whose jokes automatically get those forced laughs? And whose subtle approval are people seeking before they finalize a decision? Think about your own friend group for a second. Next time you're all together, just look around. Who is holding the attention? Who is everyone subtly angling their body toward? Because this is exactly how status is psychologically communicated. It's not established through job titles or bank accounts. It's established entirely through human reaction and the silent currency of attention.
And that currency almost always comes down to being reactive versus being calm. Emotional control acts as our deepest social currency. When we subconsciously measure the strength of another person, it almost always comes down to emotional stability. Those who are highly reactive, the ones who get easily defensive, upset, or overly animated when challenged, they subconsciously signal weakness. They bleed influence. Because their reactions show that their internal state is easily disrupted by external forces. On the other hand, the individuals who remain completely still and calm under pressure, they automatically command respect. We are biologically wired to associate emotional stability with absolute power. If you can't control your own emotions, the group just assumes you are easily controlled by others. Calmness in the face of chaos is the ultimate display of dominance.
Which brings us to a really fascinating contrast in how people attempt to navigate these invisible hierarchies. Performed confidence versus genuine self-assurance. We've all seen the desperate chase for external validation, right?
The loud, boastful individual at the bar or in the boardroom, aggressively trying to dominate the conversation, dropping names, inflating their accomplishments. That is performed confidence. It's a loud broadcast that desperately seeks attention. But true social power, it's incredibly quiet. Genuine self-assurance doesn't need a constant display. Think about the most respected people you know. They are rarely the loudest. In fact, they often speak the least. They control the room's attention naturally, simply because people can feel the profound, silent difference between someone desperately trying to prove their status and someone who simply possesses it. Their silence actually carries far more weight than someone else's shouting.
Now, in the modern era, things have taken a pretty dark turn. Social media has taken these primitive psychological instincts and weaponized them to a terrifying degree. It's what we can call the digital social trap. First, status is no longer just a feeling in a room. It's fully visible and quantified. Popularity is a concrete metric tracked in real time through likes, views, and followers. Second, millions of people unconsciously tether their core self-worth to this digital approval. They check their phones searching for a primitive hit of tribal acceptance. Third, this creates a psychological state of relentless comparison, triggering deep, inescapable insecurity. And finally, identity itself fractures into a constant, exhausting performance curated entirely for an audience of strangers.
And this leads us to perhaps the heaviest psychological realization of our time. Who am I becomes how am I perceived? The pursuit of digital approval has quietly, almost invisibly, shifted human personality. We've stopped asking the foundational question of self-awareness. Instead, an entire generation is now trapped asking how they look to everyone else. We are optimizing ourselves for the gaze of strangers. We edit our personalities, our faces, and our lives to fit a quantified hierarchy, sacrificing genuine self-awareness for the hollow illusion of digital status. Just ask yourself, how much of your personality is just a performance for an audience? How much of your life is actually lived for the photograph rather than the experience itself?
So how do you step out of a game that everyone else is unconsciously playing? You become the uncontrollable individual. You surgically detach your identity from external validation. The people who are the absolute hardest to control socially, the ones who hold true, unshakable power, are those who do not desperately seek the approval of the room. They don't bend their opinions to match the majority. They remain emotionally grounded when others panic. They stay calm under pressure. They think independently of the crowd. Real status, the kind that cannot be taken away by a shifting algorithm, a corporate layoff, or a fickle social circle, can only be built internally. Because when you no longer need the tribe's applause to feel secure, the tribe entirely loses its leverage over you.
It is one of the deepest, most twisted ironies of human dominance and submission psychology. People often respect those most who care the least about impressing others. We are biologically wired to frantically seek approval, to desperately want to be liked and accepted by the group. Yet, we reserve our highest level of profound respect for those who do not need that approval from us. The less you care about impressing the room, the more the room naturally gravitates toward you. People are drawn to those who are completely self-contained. True influence is completely, fundamentally detached from the desperation to be liked. It's the ultimate paradox of power. The exact moment you stop chasing status, it naturally begins to accrue to you.
Social hierarchies will always exist. Human nature created them long before modern society, and they will persist long after we are gone. You can't destroy the hierarchy, and you probably can't completely remove yourself from it either. But you can become awake to how it operates within you. Look closely at your daily behavior today. Look at the things you buy, the clothes you wear, the words you speak, the ways you present yourself to the world on a screen. Sit in the quiet and really ask yourself, are your choices truly your own, or are they quietly, invisibly being shaped by a primitive need for status, validation, and the fleeting approval of strangers?